And welcome to Intermission Transmission with your host, Ron, me, myself, and I, and our guest for the evening, Preston Dennett. Welcome.
Thanks very much. Yeah, thanks for having me on.
All
Yep.
right. I don't know how we're going to do tonight, but hey, we're going to give it a try.
And we did have some pre-show comments from Michael Kennedy and
Hi,
Blue
Michael.
Louise. We also have C&D Boy from I think he said British Columbia. And we also got Holly San Fran.
Yeah.
So
So welcome everyone. All right, so now I would have read your bio, but that went by pretty quick on the screen there. But anyway, that was a short one. Imagine if I tried to read your long one.
Yeah, it's growing fast.
So we try to put everything in that little promo thing for you to kind of give you the spotlight, so you can share it out on your page, and everything like that. So just make sure you let them know where they got it from, like, oh yeah, over there, Errt Radio, those guys. And Upi Atori, she's another author, by the way. And she's a regular on our chats everywhere.
Awesome.
So I have one quick question, and I promise I'll let you do the talking. I promise. Of course, I'm supposed to be interviewing you, but sometimes I carry on too much. But ramble on, as I say. Is there more than one? Well, of course, I know there's more than one type of alien. There's more than one type of spaceship. But are they all the same type of beings? No, like, for instance, could they be the same being just in different times? Like the triangle, the disc shape, the triangle, the diamond shape, the sphere shape, all kinds of different shapes, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing how many different types of craft people report. Mostly I get saucer shaped, your classic saucer. But
Yeah.
Also sort of V-shaped or manta ray, spherical, cigar shaped. Sometimes just really weird shapes. That's not super common. But the saucer egg shaped comes up as well. But many, many different types of shapes I've heard over the years. And as far as types of ETs, this is a good question because people talk about, there's 50 different species visiting our planet. And I've always wondered about this. I was very skeptical of UFOs and ETs for a long time because all the reports that I'd heard about, which weren't a lot, but were always very Star Trek-like to me. Just basic humans with, eyes, nose, and mouth. And I thought, that seems really unlikely to me. I would expect ETs to be vastly different from us. But that's just not what we're seeing. That's not what the evidence is showing us. Right. They're almost exclusively humanoids. Now, there are some outlying cases which are like robotic beings are sometimes not humanoid, but even they are often, which I find really fascinating. It's a difficult question to answer because we only have the reports to go from, the contactees. I'm not going to trust our governments. I don't believe a thing they're saying on this subject. So I go to the contactees for answers on this. And personally, in my own files, I think this is reflected by a number of researchers, I would say 50%, up to 70 even, is some variation of what we call grays. But these can be short little guys to very, very tall, upwards of 6, 7, 8 feet or more in some cases. And not just gray, really. It can be very white, pale-skinned, or pink, or yellowish, or bluish, or even greenish. That doesn't come up a whole lot, not as much as the media. I think, portrays it. But yeah, a lot of grays.
Yeah.
And some are very emotional, very much like us. The other are short little AI grays. I think probably better termed as biological androids, not super emotional. And those are often ones who scoop people up and take them onto the craft where they have a liaison, so to speak, someone who basically is the main contact for them throughout their experiences.
Interesting.
Yeah, beyond grays, I mean, there's a lot.
Yeah.
Mantis comes up, certainly, anywhere from, well, the shortest I ever got was like 4 or 5 feet. That's super rare. The tallest I ever got was 2 cases of 15-foot tall praying mantis.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But generally speaking, 6 to 9 feet, around there.
And hope that they're not hungry when they run into you.
No, I got no reports of ETs eating people. I just don't. But
That's good.
what
Now-
else would be human looking?
Yeah.
Or would be reptilian occasionally, very rare in my files, but it does come up. Short little blue beings, I get those somewhat consistently. Robotic beings, not a whole lot, but it does come up. I would say strange humanoids, sort of a catch-all category. Because there was a guy up in Ontario at Wasaga Beach, something like that, in Ontario. He saw 10-foot tall humanoids, which
Wow.
looked basically human, but had very ruddy skin. He said it was thick, ruddy, wrinkled skin with huge dark eyes with gold rims.
Wow.
And another
That'd be
lady,
scary. It's scary to see something 10 feet tall like that.
yeah, scared him. That's a long story. We might get into it if we have a chance. But another lady, she described a 9-foot tall humanoid with orange, spiky, straw-like hair. Light beings, that comes up. I mean, there's a lot. Cat-like beings, dog-like beings. One contactee I interviewed, wrote a whole book about, Dolly Saffron. She's in chat. She saw those. I've only gotten a few cat-like beings.
Okay.
But
Are they mostly peaceful and just bringing a message?
yeah.
Okay.
This is my assessment. I know there are researchers out there who disagree, but I think there's a lot of fear surrounding the subject. There's a lot of disinformation. There's a lot of confusion.
Mhm.
There's a lot of people who do what I call, they do cherry picking and shoe fitting. They're pushing forth their narrative and looking for cases that support it. But I don't think they're here to hurt us.
So eventually the Mantis does not have an exoskeleton per se, like Dolly, right?
I don't have cases of ETs with exoskeletons so much. No,
Right.
the praying mantis are usually described as being, I think the ones here on Earth, the little insects do, but the ones that I hear, no, they're usually described as gray or brownish, kind of gray-green sometimes, splotchy or bone white even.
Man.
Huge triangular heads.
Yes. So, is there like what kind of gravity are there coupled or operable from within? He meant to say within.
Yeah, this is so interesting because I keep seeing cases of ETs who don't walk quite the way we do. And the witnesses have the impression that they have a lighter gravity perhaps because they can hop and just bounce around and like Earth is like gravity or heavier in some cases. So I think there's varying gravity on these other planets where they come from. And I do think that's where they're coming from. I know people talk about, they're from the future, or they're interdimensional, or time travelers, or something else entirely.
Yeah, and that's why I said the future originally when I asked that question, and because that's what a lot of people say. So I was just going along with the mainstream,
Yeah.
I don't think they're from the future. No, I don't.
So yeah, Upi I think Ryan was a little bit off focus, but something that is 15 foot tall with the special muscle culture to operate out gravity. Would you debunk that or no?
Well, I mean, just if you look at the history of planet Earth, we have very tall Like, look at giraffes. They're getting along just fine. They're a lot taller than that.
Yep.
And if you look into the history of planet Earth, it's shocking because we have, of course, dinosaurs who were absolutely massive. And I mean, insects even much, much bigger in prehistory. And if you really study it intensely, you'll come up with the accounts of giants on Earth, which kind of slipped under my radar for years and years and years until I finally decided, you know what? I keep hearing about this. Let's take a look. Yes, there were giant humans on this planet. The evidence is overwhelming.
Okay, so about the mantis, would that imply that they control the gravity on board in their ship? If it's the right term, we don't know like how the mantis came along.
Yeah, well, people who are taken on board a craft often say, that it's, the gravity is normal. It's usually perhaps a little bit lighter. Some are floated around. The air is usually described as quite breathable, though sometimes a little stuffy or thin and silky. There's slight differences, but I've never heard of anyone going on board a craft and being like crushed and can't move because the gravity is so heavy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So now let me ask you this question.
Hold on.
Bobby.
How would they control the gravity? Is it still a mystery?
Yeah, well, officially it's a mystery. But if you look into the studies of, secret technology from our governments, we apparently have mastered anti-gravity some decades ago to an extent. I remember there was an account from Timothy Good who interviewed a witness who said that they walked into this room and the people were just floating around in it.
Oh, wow.
They had somehow mastered anti-gravity.
So is it like, is the Earth gravity supposed to be dense and heavy?
Well, it's hard to say. I've talked to a few people who've been on other planets. Dolly Saffron is one, and she said Earth is the heaviest she's been on. And I think, it's very hard to answer that because there's not a whole lot of information. This is still a young field of study, and it's hard to, answer questions like that. But
so now I got a question for you that I think you can answer, maybe. All right. When was the earliest time that you've had an experience yourself?
Well, I wish I could say exactly.
Okay, ballpark.
I mean, I had a full conscious experience with an orb that involved missing time when I was 1992. So that would make me, 65, 75, 85. That would make about 27 years old.
Oh, wow. A little bit older than normal. So.
Yeah, but looking back in my history, I've got little clues that it might have gone on earlier than that.
Okay.
Because it is in my family. Both my sister-in-laws have seen ETs. They've both seen UFOs.
Yeah,
my brother saw a UFO.
I have the guy on my background, on my background of my show here, with the ET and looking at my logo, and I haven't seen one officially. But now I believe that they're just like ghosts. Now I have seen spirits. I've seen paranormal stuff more than I have any kind of aliens.
Yeah, I've had some paranormal experiences myself.
Yeah.
But
sometimes I wish he will stop doing these shatters, but you're not going to convince him. The ghosts will keep on chatting.
What? The apps that I'm using?
Yeah, he does like daily chatter session. So
I have a thing that I allowed apps to run in the house, and I allowed spirits to just chat, right? Now some say, oh, that's just a bunch of crap. It's just apps and not even doing anything. But the funny thing was, there's some people that are actually responding to what's being said, and they're actually saying things that people are chatting about in the chat. And it's like, wait a minute, how can that even happening.
I am sure that spirits are around us at all times.
And they're watching the chat and they're responding with the best way they can. Hey, Jessica, how you doing? All right. So,
And then,
so now,
yeah.
I was gonna say I was little story. I know I've seen one
Well,
craft.
can we hold on with the story? So Ufi is asking, there has been no reports of human-like ghosts on board UFOs, correct?
That is an awesome question, Ufi, because that's never been. No one's ever asked me that. There are some weird experiences people do have on board UFOs where they have reported seeing deceased relatives.
Oh wow!
As far as like a haunted UFO, I've never heard of that.
That would be freaky.
But yeah, I mean, I interviewed one gentleman, Don Anderson, who says that he was taken to see the spirit. I mean, he was on board a craft, and the spirit of his father showed up. That's pretty much. I don't have hardly any cases like that. I know Whitley Strieber says he's gotten a few cases like that, but I can't say that I really have a whole lot. There's that one.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to rule it out because, ETs do have an understanding of the astral planes, as we would think of it, the higher dimensions.
Yeah.
Can travel there pretty easily, I think. So I think that's absolutely something we need to consider.
Dolly Sefrin is probably another good one that we consider next time, right?
Oh yeah. Well, maybe we need to reach out to her, and or she can reach out to us. Give her the email, Bobby. Never hurts to connect with people, right?
She's an amazing contactee. Of all the people I've interviewed, I think she has the best grasp of what's going on because she's had so many experiences.
So, there's things about the paranormal and the aliens or alien experiences kind of all being connected at some point. And like there's some kind of energy that's connected. And I'm not saying that the paranormal where some people say, oh, the ghosts or spirits are evil. I don't say that. I don't mean that at all. I think that in most cases, who we connect with are hopefully some kind of positive energy, that perhaps we're getting some kind of answer from, whatever that question might be, and I haven't had any negative experience except once when I had a shadow man in my living room and I told him he had to leave and he left. Shadow men are supposed to be evil, right?
Yeah. Well, there are, bad people on Earth who are living now and they pass on and they're not magically, suddenly good people.
Right.
So we do have what I would term bad ghosts wandering around.
I felt this negative energy from this one and I told it he had to leave. I just said, you got to leave. You can't be here.
Yeah. And then, that's exactly what you're supposed to do. Don't fear them. Don't feed into their fear. Don't engage them.
And ever since that time, I've had positive energy here, and I know that there are some that are here protecting me, to make sure they don't have that negative energy here.
We all have spirit guides. There's no doubt in my mind.
Yeah.
Because I've had a lot of.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
We want to welcome Heidi and Cohen, Gold Prospecting.
Hey, how you doing?
And Rockstar.
Rockstar, what's going on?
Now, please continue, Preston. Please continue.
Yeah, I've got into astral projection and out-of-body experiences.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty early on, and really studied it and learned how to do it and got pretty good at it. And I can tell you from firsthand experience, we do all have spirit guides who watch over us. Absolutely. Ghosts are around us all the time.
Yeah.
We just most people don't perceive them.
Yeah.
I'm not super good at perceiving spirits in terms of like mediumship ability. I have it a little bit, but a lot of contactees do. And all of us do absolutely have that ability. And you can feel it, when you walk into a house, you're like, ooh, this is creepy. Are you getting the goosebumps? I mean, that's sensing a spirit.
Yeah.
You can smell them. They can affect the physical environment, but there are absolutely bad spirits out there, and there's a bunch of them who are earthbound, what we would think of as earthbound, who are just too afraid or just too negative to sort of elevate themselves and go to the higher planes. They have the choice to do it. It's up to them. All they have to do is do the work.
That's
I'm gonna be right back. I gotta give you some water.
All right. Yeah, and I think as humans, of course, we have free will, as you know, and whether we want to believe that or not, but if we understand what it says about how we were created, because we are made in the image of the Creator, as speaking from the Bible terms of things, and so if we hang on to that, then it would say that we have free will. And we can do what we want, and that means anytime. Okay. Even after we leave our human existence, we have a free will. Now, I'm not saying that we won't have to answer for our actions. I'm not saying that. We will have to, definitely. But the point is that up until that point, we can go anywhere we want to, do anything we want. Okay. So,
Yeah.
in this human life form, we're kind of stuck here on Earth in this human form. We don't have a choice of doing much of anything but what we're doing to survive. Go ahead with his question.
Yes. Should we open the subject of interdimensional meditation, how it leads to UFOs or UAP, remote viewing, and the paranormal?
Yeah, I'm not sure I've heard the term N-dimensional meditation, but meditation is key to so many things.
It could also be transdimensional. I know I get K-type whatever myself.
Okay.
Yeah, meditation is so important because it has so many benefits. If you start meditating, you immediately start improving your health in a number of different ways. You raise your psychic abilities, and you can start activating things like astral projection and remote viewing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the one constant that's really in every culture, every religious school of thought, or every type of spiritual practice. They all agree. Every spiritual master, every enlightened master, they all agree that meditation is extremely crucial to developing your psychic abilities and advancing yourself spiritually and psychically. And you don't have to, there's no special trick to it. You just have to learn how to relax initially. And there's all different kinds of meditation. You can, meditate on colors and sounds and mantras.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's just physically relaxing and mentally relaxing, and then using your power of intention to do whatever it is you want to do, astral projection or mediumship or healing or you name it. We are so much more powerful than people realize. The things we can do.
Yeah.
Now go back.
Ufi has something to say about in-dimensional to refer to that meditation standard between 3D and 4D.
Yeah, that sounds exactly what meditation is all about. It's sort
opening
of accessing beyond.
And
go back to Heidi.
Yeah, hold on. We gotta say hello to Marco. And now we can go back to Heidi.
Yeah. Well, are we sure all people have free will? Various degrees of awareness and ability to control and action. I think, as an entity, all entities, I think, do have free will. We have varying levels of freedom. We have varying levels of understanding, varying levels of spiritual, moral progress or ability. But being an entity means you're inviolable. You're an integral part of the universe. You can't be divided from it. All of us here on Earth are entities.
Are part of it, yeah.
Yeah, all the ETs are entities. We all come from Source. We all share a common heritage. And while it's...
I like that, yeah.
I think it's absolutely true. Some people are in very tough situations where their free will is extremely limited. But no one can get inside you. You are free to think what you want. You might not be free to do and move around to do, certain things. But as an entity, that is absolutely indestructible, as far as I can tell, from my own experience and what I've read.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like we all, it's such a gift to be a part of this universe.
Yeah. And Dolly had some there. Show that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I like what this says. I believe spiritual belief limits your free will as it limits your choice. If you have no belief, you may act freely based on probability. I love that, Heidi and Conan Gold prospecting, because I was trapped in a belief system as a young man, very skeptical. And finding out UFOs were real shattered my worldview, my belief system. And I got knocked over again when I found out, you can go out of your body and do all this stuff. Started having precognition. My belief system entirely collapsed. A belief system is really nothing more than delusion. And I don't mean to be, rough about that, but belief is not knowledge. It just isn't. Knowledge comes from personal experience only. And this is where we all need to start a baseline of knowing what we absolutely know and working from there, and not, relying on a belief system. I get it, because it can be comforting. It's like a security blanket. It's a crutch that we might need to get through rough times. But ultimately, we have to build up our knowledge if we're going to progress. And knowledge is what it is. We should not be carrying around beliefs that are, quote, faith-based. Test them, learn all that is learnable, and proceed from there. That's what the ETs told Dolly Saffron, basically.
Yeah. Hey.
Rockstar. They can be, I suppose.
Yeah. No, UFOs are not a distraction. They're visitors. They absolutely can be a distraction. But look at who we are. Here we are, human beings on a planet. Gosh, we know that at least. I mean, we can start with that. We know we're entities living on a planet. And if you look at the stars out there, it's inconceivable that there's not something out there. And the fact is, we're seeing it. And what this does is provides us an opportunity to learn.
Yeah.
And, you can stick your head in the sand and, just stay in your own little world, or you can open your horizons and explore everything you possibly can. That's what science is all about. People really need to move towards just learning.
Yeah.
That is what is going to bring us all together at some point. If we can reach a consensus.
Yeah, so these are some great comments from
smarter than I got.
Yeah,
we're getting really philosophical tonight, aren't we?
I'll let them go. Yeah, go ahead, chat.
Yeah, do we have any more questions? And I think while we're thinking about it, you said you got like a book that's already out or it's coming up or what?
Well, you have 30 books that are out there somewhere on there.
Oh, yeah. Yep, I've got, here's my latest, Humanoids and High Strangeness.
That's one you wanted to talk about. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm super excited about that one because I really wanted to embrace the totality of people's experiences. There's so many books out there which talk about ET contact, but leave out a lot of the high strangeness and paranormal sides of it. And I know this for a fact because I've talked to people who've been, portrayed in other people's books of well-known researchers. Said, well, they didn't tell the spiritual side of it.
I think that's already too late if you're talking about hippopotamuses. Because I think whenever they fart, everything comes flying out of the books. That was actually a YouTube video. Okay, so Michael Kennedy, can you comment on Russia having nuclear weapons in orbit and why ET would allow that?
ET is not here to modify, to control us. It's up to us to learn our own lessons, and we can see this because look at Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Did they stop that? No. Why? Because we would not have learned. We would continue to just, as every parent knows, you cannot tie your children's shoes. You cannot stop them from doing everything. They have to learn. And I can march out firsthand case after case after case after case of this, where contactees have asked, come down and help us. Why don't you stop all these corrupt leaders from wreaking havoc on our planet? It's up to us to do it. When it comes to nuclear stuff, they're very concerned. And I think there are several cases of flat out intervention. It's my understanding that during the Apollo and Gemini missions, I can't prove this. This is just stuff I've read and learned, that we were planning on exploding a nuclear bomb on the moon. And they're like, no, you're not doing that.
That would not be good.
And I think they have intervened on a number of occasions. I remember reading about remember 3 Mile Island?
Yeah.
In Pennsylvania when that thing nearly melted down? I found a case online of a UFO right over 3 Mile Island following that accident. There's allegedly reports over Fukushima. If you look up the whole nuclear connection, there's no doubt they're concerned. One guy interviewed Dr. Gary Wagoner. He was on a nuclear-powered cruiser ship. They had an encounter. Another guy interviewed Ray Sachs. He was on the Klamagor. They carried nuclear-tipped torpedoes. They had a USO encounter.
Oh, wow.
I interviewed a guy who was at Malmstrom when UFOs showed up and shut down those missiles, which are all separate and not connected to each other. And for all of them to go down is pretty much impossible.
Yeah.
So they're very, very concerned.
And what I find interesting in the Fukushima episode is that went down. Of course, an earthquake didn't help that situation, and they had the core breach and everything like that, right? And then apparently we had some of the nuclear waste on the west coast, California. People were getting sick from it, from the radiation. Well, right now, they're trying to say that was all a conspiracy theory. It might still be. Maybe I'll get in trouble for commenting on it.
It's the number one message given to contactees. We used to use DDT, that pesticide, until they found it in practically every single organic molecule on Earth.
Right.
And it's still a problem. And ETs have been warning since the beginning, since we started doing it. They bring people on board and are warning all about pollution. That's a huge message. So it's not like they're not intervening to the extent that they can.
But hopefully we can find some other safe way for energy and be responsible for what we got here on this planet. Because we're at the latter end of the timeline, so we don't really have much to worry about, in the sense that we're not going to have to live through the pain. But sad for the people who are going to have to live through some of the pain when we're gone.
Well, we're all immortal beings, so we live, we die, we live again, we die again, we live again, we die.
Do you think, speaking on that term, do you think that we come back here, or do you think we just go on to the next level and keep on going?
No, I think we come back, and we reincarnate over and over again. It's a choice. We've chosen the Earth school, and not necessarily just Earth, but the third dimension. And I think if you study past lives, because this is a big part of astral projection, you will start remembering your past lives. And it's not all just human. You can reincarnate as what we would call an extraterrestrial. But we go through a series of incarnations till we learn everything there is to learn about what it's like to be in the third dimension. which has lessons you can't learn anywhere else.
Right.
Like, well, to an extent, individuality and pain and loss and, love and compassion and just all the things that we can taste and smell and feel. There's unique aspects to the third dimension that are just a bit different than the higher dimensions. But it's a tough school, and we eventually at some point will probably not incarnate into the third dimension and continue to go higher and higher.
We'll just be stuck here and keep going through it. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, okay. She's putting your website up there.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jessica. So now, what do you think of with the reincarnation, which I don't believe in that form of it. I do believe that our energy is forever. We have everlasting soul energy that goes on forever. It doesn't end. And I guess, why not come back here if we're going, where else will we go, right? But now, what about parallel planets? So, like another Earth, just like ours.
I am not so sure that I have any evidence of parallel realities.
Okay.
Other planets that are Earth-like, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so the chat wants you to discuss your latest book if you can.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, I would love to. I mean,
you were wanting to talk about that too before we go off on another track.
Yeah, it's got 20 cases from people all over the world who have had direct encounters with humanoids of one kind or another. And well, here's a case which I really like because I think it's got a lot to teach us, actually. It comes from a gentleman by the name of Hector Sawiak, who lives in Argentina. And what a great witness. He's a pilot, the manager of Argentina's largest bank, a really smart guy and very kind, who reached out to me after he had an experience. And what's interesting about him is he's had no prior experience with UFOs or ETs, but became interested as, I think he's in his 30s, not too long ago, 2016, thereabout, when there was a series of sightings outside his town, his city, San Juan, I think it is, in Argentina.
Yeah.
At any rate, he's like, I think I'll go out and see if I can see a UFO because all these people are reporting it. So he got his binoculars and his flashlights and just drove out of town in the hopes of seeing a UFO and didn't. He was very disappointed because he was really, really hoping to see one. But that night, he went to bed and woke up at around 3 a.m. to someone calling his name in his head telepathically. Hector, Hector. It was a male voice, and he jumped out of bed. It wasn't his wife. He didn't know who it was, but for some reason, he rushed to the window. And looking out the window, as soon as he looks out the window, this UFO zips by.
Oh, wow.
It was a bright ball of light. I mean, it wasn't like a saucer, but he knows aircraft because he's a pilot. He's like, well, that's not a meteor. It's far too slow for a meteor, far too fast for any helicopter or plane or anything like this. And then he's like, there's the fact that it called me out of bed. What's going on here? So this really piqued his interest, and he just kept thinking about it. I'm like, gosh, I wonder if there are ETs out there. I'd love to meet them. And he did. 2 months later, he woke up, and his room was filled with light. And standing in the doorway were two figures. One was 6 feet tall, one was 5.5 feet tall, both dressed in jumpsuits. They weren't quite grays as we think of them, but close to it. They did have pale skin, bald heads, kind of large eyes, but looked somewhat human. Let me see, blue jumpsuits, I think it was, with red collars and cuffs and a red belt. And he was terrified. He's like, oh my gosh, who are these people? I mean, he lost his mind with fear. And then they said, don't be afraid. We're not here to hurt you. And he says the fear just left, and he felt this love coming from them. That was super intense.
Mm.
And he used this phrase I've heard from other contactees. He says it was a love like never before, and he likened it to being married or holding his child for the first time. This just intense, overwhelming, pure love.
Yeah.
And one of these, the shorter one, walks up to his bedside and says, "We have come to heal you," and pulled out this little pill, brown in color, triangular shaped. It was a fairly large for a pill, but pea-sized, and put it in his hand and said, "Eat it." He held the pill and swallowed it. He said he did taste it. It was bitter, but that's the only taste that he really got from it. He's crying at this point. He's just crying, overwhelmed with the love from these guys. And he fell asleep. He was knocked out. That's all he remembers.
Wow.
But woke up the next morning, told his wife, his pillow was still wet from his tears. He could feel, the streaks on his face. And he was nauseous for about a week. But that was his experience. And it's really interesting to me because most people who have that kind of encounter usually have this stuff going on all the way to childhood. He did not.
What was he going to be healed of? What was his disease?
I asked him that. He's like, it's the strangest thing because I'm actually very physically fit. I eat very well. He's very into sports. He's a strong, young, healthy man. So maybe there was something going on that he wasn't aware of. I'm totally speculating because, he speculated.
Yeah.
All right, so
that does come up in other cases.
Yeah.
There's my sister-in-law.
Oh, okay. Hello.
Oh.
Hi, Christy.
So now, now, like you said, you didn't have an orb experience until you were, 18, you said?
No, I was quite a bit older.
27, you said. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So now, to have one, normally the experiences are at a younger age, like what we were just talking about, right?
Right.
And now, if we remember them at a younger age, that's a whole other story.
Yeah, and not everybody does.
No, right. Most of the time we're blanked out, or we forget, or we don't want to remember it, so we don't. And that I can understand.
It's not at all uncommon for someone to go all the way up to midlife and then have an experience that's very in your face. And that's basically what happened to Whitley Strieber. And he can look back on his history and say, "Oh my gosh, this, all." We're very good at denial. We're very good at pigeonholing, explaining away, ignoring anything that doesn't fit into our worldview.
Yeah.
Because this is a subject that absolutely threatens our worldview in terms of, we're the apex predator, so to speak.
Yeah.
But it's very challenging. This is why there are still skeptics, because it can challenge your belief system.
Yeah.
It's a core belief. It's very much like, religion or politics. It will change the way you think about everything. And it can be just a simple sighting will change everything.
I've seen an orb before. And I mentioned before, I've seen spirits, I've seen ghosts or spirits, whatever you want to call them. I say spirits to be respectful because I do think they're human spirits. But, so I don't think they're evil. I don't think they're negative. So I do call them spirits. I have seen an orb. I was in North Carolina. I lived in North Carolina for 9 years. And I used to go to the swamp a lot and play around in the water, and anyway, I was out there, and one time I saw this green light come down. Of course, they all said it was swamp gas then, in 95, And that's just swamp gas, you just seen some kind of green haze, No, this green haze come down and it looped around and did some kind of weird move, and it was in a ball shape. I don't think the swamp gas does all that,
No, I don't think
so. I didn't say much about it after that, And I had
a lot of people have encounters, far more than talk about it.
I had a brother-in-law that talked about he had a gray aliens inject him with some kind of thing in his arm, and he tried to show me, and of course he was an alcoholic at the time, so I denied the fact that he was telling the truth because he was just a drunk, So I let that go by, and then all of a sudden I talked to all these people that have these cases where they have, abductions, or they have people put something in their arm or whatever, and or in their leg or whatever. And like I interviewed Terry Lovelace, and he talked about the knee episode, with his knee, and so there's many few people that I talked with, that have had very direct contact in situations that nobody can explain,
Yeah, it's not at all uncommon. Can I share another one of my favorite
go
cases?
ahead. Yeah, please do.
This one lady I interviewed, Geneva is her name, contacted me because she heard me speak years ago, and took her about 15 years to reach out to me. She always wanted to, but she's like, it's time. She had this really interesting experience. It began, well, sort of, in high school. She had graduated from high school, and she and her friends traveled out to this little helicopter pad, abandoned, out in the Santa Clarita Mountains of Southern California. And we're just partying away from all the adults and having a good time. There was probably 20 or 25 of them there. And suddenly people started shouting out, "What's that? Look, oh my God, UFO." And she missed it. She whirled around, but by then it was gone. And about half the group or more saw this star-like object come down. It stopped. It darted across the sky. It stopped. It darted again, and then it took off. And she's like, "Darn it, I missed it." She was so mad, right? And so she went back there a couple of times hoping to see something, never did. Then it was about 10 years later, she got in this huge fight with her boyfriend. She was very depressed. Life was just really hard at that time. And she stormed out. And she says, "You know what? I'm just going to go camping. I'm going to go up to that helicopter pad and I'm going to go camping. I just need to be alone." So she left around 11 p.m. or so, got there about midnight, and had no sooner set up her sleeping bag and got a water bottle and was getting ready to just spend the night there. Oh no, wait, here, let me back up for a second. She decided to do what's called primal scream therapy, which you may have heard of, but if you haven't, that's where you just basically let out a string of curses at the universe, and get rid of all your emotions. It's like screaming into a pillow. But she's like, just really letting it out. I won't curse, but she was. She really let loose at the universe. Why is life so effing hard? And I don't like it like this. And this is not supposed to be like this. And I should be happy. And what's wrong? And blah, blah, blah. So she had done that, and sees this light come up from behind the mountain and then drop. And she's like, "Huh, what's that?" And then it came up again and started coming towards her. And it was about a mile away at this point, but it's making a beeline straight towards her. And she's thinking to herself, "Oh no, someone heard me. They've called the cops. Out here in the wilderness, there shouldn't be anybody out here who could hear me, but clearly somebody did, because this helicopter is coming for me, and I'm so embarrassed." And as it got closer and closer, she's like, "Well, that's weird. It's not making any noise." But it was sending down this beam of light periodically. And finally it comes and it stops right over her. And she loses her mind with fear, because it's not a helicopter. It's making this low humming noise, and it's rocking about 200 feet over her head. And it beams her with this beam of light. Boom. And it stays there for a minute or two, which is a long, long time when you're being beamed by a UFO. And so she's going crazy with this. And suddenly the beam goes off, and she's shaking. She's literally shaking. She fell to the ground. She's shaking in fear. And she starts talking to it. She's like, "Who are you? Why are you here? Are you here to kill me? Am I about to be abducted?" And it started to come closer, and she's became terrified, and it backed off. And then her fear started to evaporate. And she's like, "Who are you? This is interesting. Why are you here?" And it came closer. And this went on for hours, basically all night. And she had this sort of interactive conversation. said this. It was actually really beautiful because the more she looked at it, she could see scintillating colors, and she saw what she thought might be a humanoid inside of it. She can't be fully certain of this, but she had little glimpses of this. And finally, the sun started to come up, and she's like, "Are you going to stay here? Are you going to follow me home? What's going on?" And it quickly darted off at super high speed and was gone. So that's a really cool sort of CE5. But what's
now, did she have any other communication with anyone at all since then?
Well, following that, she started having memories of being on board a craft.
Oh, okay.
In fact, she remembered being on this craft, looking down. The floor was transparent. She could see her home. It took her down to Mexico. It landed in a village.
Wow.
It was a big, long, drawn-out thing. And she's like, "Is this how?"
Yes.
And she kept waking up, and she'd be being put back into her bed.
Yeah, interesting.
I think she was being contacted.
Yes. So what was the motivation for your latest book?
I really wanted to embrace the totality of the contact experience.
Oh, nice.
Because people have this misconception, being contacted by ETs is being abducted and laid out and physically examined.
Not always.
Experimented on, and you're put back. And that's not true. It's just not true. It's so much more than that. It's more about being pulled on board and healed, shown the engine room, taken to the observation deck, given messages, warnings, told how to pilot the craft, and underlining really it's a spiritual and psychic awakening. So people will come back from their experience and they start having astral projection, remote viewing, past life recall, healing, levitation, channeling, mediumship, seeing shadow people, precognition. All of this is part and parcel of the UFO experience.
Yeah.
So that's really what motivated me to do it, because a lot of books are very nuts and bolts and are editing out.
Just doesn't deal with nuts and bolts here.
Yes. So Ufi, and I think she had too much rock dust or stardust or something, whatever she had in her drink. But has anyone had interruptions with the living ships?
Yes. And guess what? All of them. Because, and this took me a while to come to an understanding of this, because I kept hearing contactees saying, this felt like a living thing to me, or it spoke to me, or I really felt it was alive. And this was confusing to me because these are craft, which leave burn marks and take people on board. And then I had the wonderful opportunity to interview Dolly Safran, who I wrote the book Symmetry about. And she says, "Oh yeah, it's a living being. They're embodied. All the ships are embodied." And she says it's a fifth dimensional entity that embodies the craft that she was taught how to fly by the ETs.
Oh, wow.
I'm so glad you told me this, because people kept telling me this and I couldn't fully understand or grasp what's going on here. But I'd already come to that understanding when I interviewed them. They're living beings as we would think of it. They're embodied. It's not quite the same as a flesh and bones and blood body, but it's the same principle.
So you talked about source before, which I say God, but source, same perspective of what we're talking about. You think that the living ships are all connected at some point, right?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. ETs, and this is absolutely the rule, are telepathic.
Okay.
And when you think about what that means, the implications are profound and far-reaching, because what this means is they know what's going on with everyone else
before we do.
Yeah. We're telepathic too. We just deny it, and it's riding right under our what we call the subconscious.
Yeah.
But most people have had multiple experiences with telepathy at some point where they think, "Oh, the phone's going to ring," and it does. Or, "I just thought that and you said it."
Yeah.
And that happens to everybody, and that is the
I like that.
glimmerings of fully developed telepathy. But the ETs are totally telepathic, and they all work together. They're in concert. There's not wars going on. They're far beyond that. Anyone who is still at that stage is not traveling interstellar distances. So any claims of ETs coming here and warring and harming is, in my opinion, in my assessment, based on my research, disinformation or misinformation or fear-based thinking. It can be very scary to have contact. I'm not going to deny that because many people tell me that. Most do. But no, they're very telepathic, and they know exactly what's going on with each other and with us.
So what we need to do, we need to accept that then.
Yeah, I sure.
In our level of thinking, we need to believe that and accept it, which is difficult, I think.
Yeah, so human experience is with organic telepaths. Your thought of AI or inorganic telepaths?
Yeah, I don't pretend to know a whole lot about this. However, I can say that I'm reading up on it, and it's my understanding that our own governments do have what we would call psychotronic technology, where they can implant thoughts into people's heads, or basically send out a device that sends out like a radiation beam, which can activate a certain center of your brain, and you will hear voices. There's good evidence of this. So that is absolutely possible. The little AI grays, would think of as sort of biological androids, are AI. They are AI, and they do have telepathy. Telepathy is normal. It's not supernatural. It's not paranormal. It is normal. It's how we are supposed to be.
Yeah.
But our governments, or our secret governments, have polluted our water, have polluted our food, have polluted our air, have broadcast, noise and fear. And did you know more people die on this planet or in America at least, from legal prescription drugs than illegal drugs?
Yeah.
We're being poisoned, and this is intentional, in my opinion, in an attempt to dumb us down and reduce our ability to do telepathy, because telepathy would change everything. We would no longer be lied to. Greed and corruption could not exist if we all could read each other's minds. And we have that ability, and contactees do this. They absolutely are profoundly psychic as a rule. And this is one of the major ET goals, agendas, missions. They're constantly warning us, but they're trying so hard to wake us up to who we are and what we can do.
So does telepathy depend on language or symbology? And how is this context is defined?
Telepathy can be done through language. And we see this with contactee reports from other countries. In Mexico, they'll come down and say, ¿Cómo estás? Or, in French, no avez peur, or however you say it. They will talk to you in your native language, but just as often it's as unknowing, and they don't use words so much. They sometimes will use symbology, but ultimately telepathy is far beyond language. Language is a perversion of telepathy, and it causes endless wars and misunderstandings. That is a huge, huge problem here on this planet. ETs have moved beyond what we would think of as just a language.
Yeah. Okay, so you also mentioned that when you are like into the world of UFOs, it's half the time you can't just trust your respectful governments. And we did have about, I think about, was it a couple of years ago, we had that UFO hearing. There were some things that was spoken in a public setting, but then there were something where they can't speak of unless they were behind closed doors.
Right.
Do we have any knowledge of what was spoken behind closed doors than the ones that we actually do have?
I don't know what went on behind closed doors. I suspect that they were talking about their abilities to detect UFO activity in ways, because that's often their excuse for why we can't talk about this, is because it would give away our abilities, or our capabilities rather, to detect these things. But that the first public hearing about 3 years ago, I think now, where Moultrie and Daley, the head of the defense guys, were fielding questions from Congress. And I watched that. I think a lot of people did, and I was so disappointed because they did lie. They lied flat out, and it's demonstrably true that they lied, because they were asked, have we ever shot at UFOs? And they both very quickly, too quickly, said, no. That's not true. Look at the Battle of LA in 1940. Was it 42? 41? Where a large craft hovered over Culver City in Southern California for 2 hours, and a bunch of smaller craft. And we shot 1,500 plus rounds of ammunition at it.
Yeah.
All through the 1950s, we were shooting at UFOs.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the book by Frank Ficino called Shoot Them Down. He laid it out in black and white. That's a lie. Of course we've shot at them. How could they lie so bald-faced like that? And
like they just made it up, like what's been going on today. So
they're pushing their own narrative. They're not telling the truth.
Right.
Don't trust them.
Mm-hmm.
Don't look to them for answers or disclosure, because you're not going to get it.
Yeah, no matter who's in charge, it's difficult to trust. So,
look at NASA.
Going back to telepathy, does telepathy eliminate deception, or does it make it difficult to try to avoid deception or whatever?
I only know what I've been able to read about and discern from interviewing contactees. I'm not going to say it fully eliminates deception, because there are people who are themselves deceived and believe they're telling the truth and broadcast that, or can perhaps block their own thoughts to a certain extent. This is my understanding. But I think that ultimately telepathy, would lift the veil, and we would fully understand each other, and lying would be very, very difficult.
That's like hacking the third eye or something. So,
yeah. I mean, I know from having out-of-body experiences that, because it activates that, and you can, to a certain extent, after I would have an experience, I could start to pick up on what people were thinking, and it's disconcerting because they'll be saying one thing and thinking another. You're like, it's confusing. It really confuses.
That's when you just be quiet and you let them talk, and then
yeah. And I mean, when you look at little children and they're lying, it's pretty transparent sometimes.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that.
Yeah.
And we all have that ability. I mean, that's why I love watching, some of these shows where, someone says, I did not do that. And we know they did. We know for a fact that they are guilty. It's fascinating to see.
And what Faith Dolly Severin said is true. You cannot hide from a wide open psychic.
Right. Yeah, I believe that to be true. And that's why I think ETs are trying so hard to get us to that point. Because again, it would change everything. Can you imagine if, because cell phones, everything we do with the cell phone, you could probably do mentally in terms of communication.
Yeah. So yeah, well, I think what also Ubi said was also true.
Yeah, misunderstanding
Yeah.
such a huge part of life on Earth right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think ETs do have multiple goals and agendas. But I think if you take an objective look at the onboard experience and really break it down into its components, you'll see that this is not anything nefarious or something we should be worried about. It's really good news for humanity. Thomas Bullard was really the first to outline what happens when someone is taken on board. And I'm so glad he did that. Look up his book, Abductions, Measure of a Mystery, because he basically lays it out in black and white.
What's his name again?
Thomas Bullard. Yeah, he was a very early researcher. I think he's still around. We've gotten a lot more cases since then, but there's other researchers out there who I think are doing excellent work. Barbara Lamb, I think her take on the whole phenomena is very much aligns with mine. John Mack, Pulitzer Prize winning author, researched this subject, and yeah, what he found I think aligns with what a lot of researchers are finding.
Yeah.
A big part of the UFO experience is healing. And this is undeniable. You cannot walk away from this because there are so many cases. One of my books outlines 300 cases. And there are cases from John Mack, Bud Hopkins, David Jacobs, Edith Fiore, Philip Mantle, Timothy Good, Tim Beckley, Brad Steiger. I mean, I can go on. Barbara Lamb, Yvonne Smith. All the researchers, all the major researchers, certainly.
Yeah.
Multiple.
So,
I've interviewed some.
Yes. Any conferences or events that you're participating in? Or
yeah, I'm looking possibly a conference later this year. I don't know what it's called. Shag Harbor is a definite possibility. I might be doing another one. It's not confirmed yet, so I really shouldn't say. But definitely, I've got a possible TV gig coming up. I'd love to take any opportunity I can to get the message out because this is important. The general public, while most people do believe that UFOs are real and our government is hiding, have no idea how common this is and how viciously and ruthlessly it's being covered up. We have technology that can move us beyond fossil fuels, that can clean up our environment, that can solve the energy crisis.
But they're all trying to do it for money prospecting. Yeah, they're trying to get money out of the idea of whatever they can come up with.
There's no need for this unequal distribution of wealth and divisiveness and all the weird stuff we go through. It's ridiculous. It's time to grow up.
Yeah.
And going back to Upi's analogy that the child wants to drive the car, but the parents doesn't provide that information until the time is right. Usually by late teens, you should be able to do it.
Yeah,
and that's
go back 100 years and kids were being taught much earlier on how to drive tractors and run the whole household at a very
work. And
we've kind of backpedaled a little bit, which is unfortunate to me because I don't fully understand that. But yeah, I mean, I get it that children definitely need to be taught how to do things before they're placed in, danger of any kind. But we can do these things at a much earlier age than I think is accepted today.
Yeah.
Yep. So
I like that. What was the one you had? The one book you mentioned, Symmetry. What?
Symmetry: A True UFO Adventure.
And who was that by?
That's my book. It's all about Dolly Saffron, who's in chat.
Oh, you don't happen to have that book, is it?
I have it around.
In reach.
I think I do. Let me see. What is it? It's somewhere around here.
making him dig through his library of books. He only has a few of them.
Yeah, gosh dang it, Ron. Gosh dang it.
But I'm glad he's not having to go back to that back wall back there with all them books. He didn't be all night looking at those.
I think it's probably up there somewhere. But yeah, it's called Symmetry, a True UFO Adventure.
Okay.
And it's all about Dolly Saffron's lifelong experiences, which began when she was just a little girl. But at age 14, she had a UFO drop down and hover over her house in the Everglades of Florida. And she saw little ETs looking out through the portholes at her.
Oh, wow.
And she dived under her bed in fear. And that's when a beam of light came and struck her. And she woke up the next morning with missing time. She's like, I'm not going through missing time again. That's it. I'm going to remember what happened. And she sat down and meditated on the advice of her father, who is a contactee. And she recalled being taken on board, being shown her quarters, being taken up, given a tour of the craft. This happens with many people. And then put up into the control room. And they sat her down on the pilot seat and said, let's go for a ride. And they took her actually to the planet Saturn, which is so interesting because so many people, well, not so many, but that does come up. Another contactee had that same exact experience. Took her to the moon, flew around it, actually landed on the moon. I know this must sound crazy to skeptics, but I'm telling you, this keeps happening to people.
That should be made into a children's movie or something.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd love to see it. Yeah.
So yeah, so wipe out the nest. We choose to take with us and or leave behind.
Yeah, I think we learn more and more as we continue each lifetime.
Yeah.
This is a controversial aspect. You know, reincarnation was pulled out of the Bible and edited. The Bible has been edited so many times.
Yeah.
But I think the evidence for reincarnation is outstanding because Dr. Ian Watson, I think that's his name, did a really scientific look at it and found case after case of young children who actually recalled being someone else, and he was able to locate them. They knew everything.
Yeah.
There was a connection to birthmarks and stuff. Yeah, the research on past lives is pretty amazing.
You had the one that was documented on the, I believe, the History Channel or Discovery Channel. I can't remember which one it was, but anyway, talking about the
Dr. Ian Stevenson, that's his name.
Okay, and he had a 10-year-old boy who was a World War II pilot. Remember that one?
I saw that.
Yeah, and he knew how to fly the plane and everything, and he had nightmares of being in the water and dying and everything like that. But he knew how to fly a plane at 10 years old or something. Like, how does he know that? I mean, that's just so weird.
Yeah, there was a whole show that did a series on children's past lives.
Yeah.
And I was so sad to see it canceled because it was so interesting.
Yeah, probably because too many people have that experience and they're letting the truth out and they don't want to let people know the truth,
Yep.
And so they'd rather have us in the shadows and in the wondering if it's real or not, and wasting all the time trying to figure it out. But you have talked to some of the people I've talked with. I've interviewed Philip Mantle before. That was fun. And
he's a researcher I absolutely respect.
Yeah, and I seen him on one of the shows on History Channel, I think, and Ancient Aliens, and he was talking about something I can't remember what. But I said I like that guy. I like how he's thinking, And so I contacted him, and all of a sudden I got one of his books, and then all of a sudden I started talking to him, and he's a really nice guy. He's a super nice guy.
Yeah, he's putting out a new book, UFO Reflections, which I'm eager to get.
Do you know M.J. Banhas in South America or Brazil?
What's his name?
M.J. Banhas?
I don't think so.
He's a MUFON director in Brazil, I believe.
Here's the book, Symmetry.
Ah, there you go.
You
I
see
like
it?
that cover. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you look real close, there's Dolly's piloting right there.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Let me flash you up. Let me flash you up, Preston. Now show that
I
cover
don't-
again.
There you go.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's such a cool story she has to share.
All right. Well, we're gonna have to get that book and then have Dolly on.
Hey, I'm sure
Yeah.
she'd appreciate that. Yeah.
Now, Dolly, you don't, the pay isn't much over here, but you get points. You get points. All right. So points can be spent anywhere you want to spend them.
Oh, Duchess wants to get on.
Ah, you got a dog too. Look at that.
I think that's a cat.
Oh, that's a cat.
Oh, it's a dog. It's a dog.
Yep, it's
Okay.
definitely a dog. She's
Oh,
about
okay.
the size of a horse.
What kind of dog is it?
Great Dane.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Can't
wow.
see nothing but the nose.
You mean the tail?
Yeah.
I think we got a glimpse of the face. Yeah.
Yes.
I had my manager
There you go.
earlier. If you didn't
There you go.
see it, but
Big dog. Big
Hi,
dog.
Duchess.
yeah.
Say hi. Say hi to the people. Look.
Big.
It's like, what are you?
Duchess does what Duchess wants to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that big dog, I guess.
Yeah, I had my manager on my camera earlier. It's a Jack Russell Chihuahua mix. It's Blackie. His name is Blackie.
Yeah. No, I had a dog. I had one die in my arms, so and I said no more of that pain. Separation, anxiety. Dealing with death and dealing with having to deal with the health issues of it. Things like that. I mean, I enjoy being able to visit like the neighbor's dog next door, or whatever, and then I don't have to worry about that. Or I see them like on here, and you show your dog off, and that brings me joy right there. That's good enough.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about taking care of them or nothing like that. I can enjoy the company, and then I can go home. So,
cute, crazy doggo that you got there.
yeah, good. That shows that we. I mean, I get along with dogs pretty much for the most part.
We grew up with dogs that weren't fixed, so we had puppies all the time.
Oh boy.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
We would go up to the grocery stores and give them away in a little box, free puppies. Of course, that had to end at some point, but it was a fun way to grow up.
Oh yeah, definitely. No,
Yeah,
I enjoy.
Raising babies. That's a good one.
So out of all the books that you have, you already named 2 of them.
And here's Blackie.
Out of all the books that you have, and I'm putting you on the spot, name the top 5.
That's easy enough. Onboard UFO Encounters is my best-selling book, which has about, I think it's 10 or 15 cases of people who've been pulled on board a craft. I love that one. My next best-selling was Symmetry. I think the third, now I'm not sure about this, but would probably be Inside UFOs, which is, again, 10 cases of people who've had really extensive contact. Another one that's doing really well is Undersea UFO Base, all about USOs.
Yeah.
The Healing Power of UFOs, 302 true cases. That's doing really well. Schoolyard UFO Encounters, 100 true cases. That's one of my favorite.
You got the one that's the one that was in Australia, the school there?
Yep. Well, there's 100 different cases. There was, of course, the Westall High School case in Melbourne, Australia.
That's the one I'm talking about, yeah.
1966, but 1 year to the day, exactly.
Wow.
It occurred at Opelika, Florida, Crestview Elementary School. UFOs landed next to the school.
Wow.
And, of course, the Rua, Zimbabwe case at Ariel Elementary School, Broadhaven in Wales, Hillsdale College. And that's what started getting me interested in all of this. And I found 100 cases, starting from 1950 on, all the way up to the present day, pretty much. It's slowed off quite a bit over the last year or two, but amazing cases of, and half are at elementary schools. 1/3, get this, involve landings or humanoids. So interesting. Gosh, these ones just touched my heart. There was one case at Downey Elementary School, I think it was, in Southern California, where this UFO came down over the playground, and it hovered there, and there was portholes, and they could see the little ETs looking down at them. It went and it landed in the canyon next to the school and came up for the next recess and did it again. Teachers tried to cover it up, but the kids told their parents.
Yeah.
And it's only because of really one parent do we know about this at all. But he was able to verify it, talk to the teachers, who told the students not to talk about it and to lie.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, that's sad. Yeah. That's because the teacher didn't want to believe it.
Can you imagine what a shock that would be?
Yeah.
Oh, man, oh, man.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
That's
And
interesting.
something happened one year
Uh-oh.
while I was still at school. I think it was pretty much like in either a 98 or a 99. So I was still probably in elementary school. I forgot my grade. I think it was like either 4th or 5th. So there was one day we was just doing our regular routine, like learning and stuff, when out of the center blue, we was just looking at the window, and it was like the sky just turned blood red. It was so bloody, like blood red sky, and it's like, and everybody was shocked. Even our teacher was shocked to see what's happening, and I think it only lasted for about maybe 30 minutes to about an hour, but then everything began to be okay, and it just returned to regular colors then.
Wow.
And I cannot find any information of that at all.
Right. You're not going to. In general, they're going to try to blank that out.
Yeah, I did a whole book on drive-in theater encounters, which sounds so crazy, but UFOs at drive-in theaters. And that's, one of my more recent books. And that was another subject or aspect of UFO encounters that totally went under the radar. I had no idea that this was a thing, but it absolutely is. I got 100 cases.
Wow.
And they're not really in any books out there. I found 1 or 2 cases in books. These were mostly from news clippings that I found. They rarely made national news. It was always in these tiny little local newspapers.
Yeah.
And I found some cases firsthand, of course. That's what got me interested in it. But man, oh man, there's so many. And these are like the schoolyard encounters, because these craft will come down over a drive-in theater. You're out at night, you have a greater chance of seeing a UFO, of course. Maybe something flies by, but that's not what's going on here. I eliminated those cases of random flybys. These are cases where these craft come right down over a theater.
On purpose, yeah.
On purpose, targeting it, and hover right over the screen or right on either side. And then they will put on a show. No kidding.
Oh, wow.
They do one of 3 things. They will either start flashing their lights, or they'll release smaller craft, or they'll start doing a little dance. Or sometimes all of that. More rarely, but they're pretty long lasting. Some are, a few minutes or even seconds, but some 10, 20, 30 minutes up to an hour or 2. So this is clearly what you would call a display.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what's going on with
programming, maybe? Programming the ones who are getting it? Meaning?
I don't know. I didn't find any evidence of that. I think they're basically just saying hi,
Just
showing themselves
showing off. Showing off. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
They have a vigorous publicity campaign going on to announce their presence.
Mm.
And we can see
Interesting.
this with events like the Phoenix Lights or Gulf Breeze Wave or Whitfield, Virginia or Hudson Valley, New York or Belgium. France had a wave in 1954 that should have woken up that country forever. Unfortunately, it was covered up. But man, oh man,
Yeah. So
they
do
are
you
putting on.
consider? Yeah. So do you consider a recent explosion of AI advancements as a result of human ET interaction or slowly of human origin?
I cannot speak with a whole lot of authority on that, but I'm going to say ET interaction because if you look at human history and how we've just sort of stayed static in terms of technological development for a very, very long time until the industrial age when it really began to explode. And then in the 50s and 60s, I mean, it skyrocketed. We went from horse and buggy to going to the moon in an extremely short period of time. And if you look at the accounts of whistleblowers like Colonel Corso and Bob Lazar and those, just to name two out of hundreds upon hundreds, I think yes. Colonel Corso said the integrated circuit, fiber optics, what else? Night vision goggles, integrated circuit were all straight from the Roswell crash.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's something to that because there's quite a few accounts. I do think probably AI and a lot of technology that we're seeing, lasers, comes directly from studying ET craft that we've managed to get our hands on.
Mm-hmm. So, have you ever encountered someone that, like, probably like aliens interacting with either through regular radio broadcast receivers or even like television broadcast receivers or through satellite interferences?
Yeah, there's a smattering of cases just like that, where there's a very famous case in England where supposedly a television broadcast was interrupted. It's a controversial case, but I started looking into it because I started getting my own cases of people who were having interference on their telephone where ETs basically called them on their phone, which sounds crazy, but Bud Hopkins has a case. Whitley Strieber talked about how an ET talked to him through his stereo. I know another lady, Katie Page. I interviewed her.
I know Katie.
Yeah, she had that experience of that Colorado ranch where the radio or the stereo ETs were talking through it. I was at a convention in Irvine, and this guy comes up to my table, and he wanted to share his experience where he was watching TV as a little kid, and it was broadcasting the inside of a craft.
Oh, wow.
And there was a craft hovering over his house. And he tried to wake up his parents, and they would not wake up, which is something we do see with closed UFO encounters. People are put into this weird sort of psychic sleep. But I haven't talked about that case almost ever. I didn't do a formal interview.
Wow.
But I did talk to him for quite some time about what he experienced. He says, I'm telling you, this happened to me. It completely freaked me out. There was a craft above the house, and he could see the inside of a craft being played on the TV screen with little grays, a rounded room, exactly what we hear, not much in there. These craft are usually very sparse on the interior.
Interesting.
It left a deep impression on him. So there's lots of cases of them interfering on television screens, radios, car radios, telephones. I mean, you name it, which makes total sense if you think about it, because that is one of the main forms of evidence that we have is electromagnetic effects.
Yeah.
Car engine, no problem. Camera.
Before I was doing a live video, I do live video when I drive everywhere. I always do live drive when I drive, and I always have my phone as a dash cam, and I have it recording on my drive. I do that for security, for insurance security and things like that, because we get a lot of deer activity where I live in the cornfields. And so anyway, and in case we see anything weird in the sky, right? Well, anyway, before I was doing that, I would be listening to the FM radio station, which is out of Fairville, Minnesota, which is a FM station, and it would usually have a strong signal. And then all of a sudden, one day I'm driving to town, my normal route, and all of a sudden the radio goes out for no reason. No reason. There's just cornfields around. No one's around with any kind of antenna to do anything like send a signal. But all of a sudden the signal just goes out. And then it comes back on a half a mile down the road, and it's like, well, that was really kind of weird. But what I know for myself is that I can sense ships above me all the time. I sense energy. Okay.
Not at all unusual.
So I sense.
People will be drawn outside by some weird impulse.
I don't see nothing. I don't see any ships. I've seen one thing that I can't explain, and we won't go into detail about that too much. But what's weird is that I can tell you I have a half a dozen ships around my car when I'm driving to town. I can sense that. Okay. And so, that's just weird. And
yeah, I knew a guy who had regular contact, and the UFOs kept following him to and from work. You could see them. Other people saw them too.
Yeah. So, what do you think about downloads? What is your give or take about downloads?
That's a part of the contact experience. This is not at all unusual. When someone has contact, it can manifest or operate at different levels. And when someone is having a direct contact with ETs, often they'll communicate in ways where they will suddenly download you. This is a term that people have picked up with information, and it can come all at once so that you have to unravel it over a period of time, perhaps, unless you're super proficient at it, and you can it's like speed learning almost. But yeah, they're called downloads. A lot of people experience this kind of thing. You can ask a question, and then they'll download a whole, encyclopedia of information into you.
Yeah.
It can take a while.
What is your definition of light in the context of which you're different of how you've been thinking?
Well, I'm not exactly sure, but what that means is that, look at it this way. The universe itself is composed of light to a certain extent. Light is the operating force, and we ourselves are beings of light. And this becomes super clear when you start having astral projection, and we have what's in essence a light body. And science knows this. If you go look at quantum physics and this sort of thing, we know that our body is mostly energetic. It really is. Yeah. It's got lots of space in it. It's just composed of atoms that are energetic particles that rotate around each other. So we are, in essence, light. If that makes any sense at all.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
Like white and light and energy, it's like the same thing. You're giving up a beat of light when you're just like, or whatever, like Dawn Sefram is saying, your conscious is like a light, and you can do like everything, and energy is light.
Good point. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, which is, if you read about near-death experiences, people talk about going down a tunnel of light and they bask in the light, which is source. So we're all a part of that. People talk about astral projection, which is kind of a misnomer, because that's our true home. That's where we come from, is the other side. We're projecting down here into these physical bodies, which are very dense. Yes, it's kind of like a crystallized light.
What is it in a physical sense in your understanding?
In the physical sense, light appears to be itself composed of particles. Is that your understanding of light as well? Well, yeah, I mean, to a certain extent, I think that's correct. And science has shown this all the way down to the subatomic particle. It's all energetic. So, yeah, light is a big part of who we are and how we manifest.
And I remember a thing we were talking about with the metaphysical type of thing, not to get off track, but they were talking about how, let's say, I grabbed this phone. All right. I grabbed this phone, and while it looks like I have it in my hand, it even feels like I have it in my hand. But in reality, I'm not even touching the phone. I'm really just, you know what I mean? I'm not really touching the phone itself. There's a space between the fingertips and the phone itself, even though we feel it. All right. But in a real sense, we're not even, because energy can't do that.
Yeah, well, I see what you're saying. I mean, we
Yeah.
perceive the world through a series of energetic impulses from our eyes and taste and all our senses.
Yeah.
And what's really interesting is, I keep talking about astral projection because it answers a lot of these questions. When you are in your astral body, you can actually interpenetrate matter, so you can walk through walls.
Right.
And this is how, to a certain extent, people are pulled on board UFOs, and they're
right
pulled
through the house,
through the wall, right through the ceiling,
whole chair and everything, recliner.
Yeah.
Everything.
And what's so interesting is you can verify this. Don't believe me. Look at the first-hand accounts of contact, case after case of UFOs landing, and there's no door. The ETs just walk in and out of it.
Right.
I mean, sometimes a door will open.
So it's like anything you do is going to produce energy to do the work. Is that where I'm getting at?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
I like that, man. That's interesting. All right, now in your best analysis of the UFO craft. All right, there's many crafts, of course, but now I have this vision, and I've had this vision for a long time about. Again, I've never really seen anything that I can claim or that I can describe or that I can, have any kind of, technical, know at all that I've seen anything or that I can prove anything. But in my vision, though, I saw there are at least 4 what I call motherships around the Earth. Okay. I mean, huge lead ships, motherships, what I call motherships, right? They're bigger than anything that we've seen while standing here on Earth. Okay? All of the ships that we see come out of that big ship. And then there are ships that come out of the big ships that we see. All right? And so the ones that we see that are bigger than a football field are actually kind of small, if that makes any sense. And so I wonder if they can change their shape and size, or we are seeing a shape and size according to what they want us to see. Do you understand my question?
Yeah, I do. And I think the answer is yes to both of those. There are different size craft, no doubt. People report this. We see everything from little tiny craft that are not much bigger than 5 or 10 feet,
right,
to ones that are 20, 30, 40 feet, and some that are quite a bit larger than that. However, size is a tricky thing.
Yeah.
Now, when people report a craft hovering overhead, it's very, very difficult to estimate size and distance with an object that you are not familiar with. It's almost impossible unless you're very experienced at it.
Yeah.
Because there's a number of factors going on here. And people will often say, oh, it was within a stone's throw. Probably not. It's probably a little bit higher than that.
Yeah.
But not always, because they do come down to treetop level and you can see it go behind trees. But people are pulled on board these craft. And sometimes they'll have a little craft that takes them up to a larger craft.
Right.
Travis
That's what
Walton reported
that's what I was getting at. Yeah, that's exactly what I was getting at.
But I've talked to people, and they're inside a craft, and it changes size. I mean, the room will change size.
Okay.
I started hearing that from
And
people.
maybe shape too, shape and size. Yeah.
Yep. So they can,
Okay.
and to a certain extent, they can change how we perceive it too. So if they want to, say, turn invisible, they can do that. They can cloak their craft, no doubt, and take on different shapes. Dolly Saffron goes into quite a bit of detail about that in the book Symmetry. She kind of compares them to cuttlefish, because they do have that ability to change the light cells on their surface of their craft so they can look like the sky or a cloud, or for that matter, a tree or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
So,
or they'll maybe look like something that's familiar to you. Maybe even a pet. I don't know, like a dog, or maybe maybe it's something that you like, a favorite car, or something like that. I don't know. Just thinking, don't make a shape like that, or put something there near you that maybe is familiar to you that you can connect with.
Yeah, well, we do see that particularly with children who are having encounters, but definitely adults as well.
Yeah.
Where ETs will come into their room and people will perceive them as teddy bears,
Yeah.
or clowns, or superheroes, or deer, or owls. I mean, there was one lady who lived in Virginia, I think, had an encounter, and the ET walked up wearing a cowboy hat and sort of a paste-on mustache. She's a horse lady, she loves horses. So we call that a screen memory, but to some degree, this is us doing it, because our brains impose patterns over things that are unfamiliar to us, and we'll sort of look for something that won't cause so much fear, perhaps, or ETs will facilitate that. So, yeah.
So would you talk to ETs or the ones that created the ETs? She tried to do it with a non-religional or metaphysical way.
All right. Would you rather talk to ET or those that created the ETs? Well, I am not sure quite how to answer that. I think that while some ETs will create the sort of biological androids, but I don't think that we ourselves are created or ETs are necessarily created. We are all beings that have been evolving for a very, very long time. So
like the traditional Christians is we are created in the same way as God, as the image of God, and we become part of that image of God.
Yeah, I wonder about that, because what we do see is a universal template of the humanoid form with ETs as, a general rule. We talked about that earlier. When someone sees ETs, it's almost always going to be some type of humanoid.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we should all be open to contact, to meeting the ETs, seeing them as they truly are, and leaving fear behind, because fear is a big barrier for people in reaching out to have contact, because people they go into straight panic, and this is what causes often missing time and interpreting the experience as negative, because it's so darn scary for people, when really there's no reason to be scared. The universe is safe. You're gonna be fine.
Yeah.
We live on, so I think we just need to recognize that ETs are very much like us. We call them aliens and extraterrestrials and other and strange and foreign, when really the message given to the vast majority of contactees who wake up to contact to any degree is that we are you, you are us, we are one, we share a common heritage. We are all the same. We all come from source. We're not that different.
I kind of wish we would all get that message, and then we can all maybe get along a little bit better. And I remember in the 70s, do you remember when we did the Coca-Cola had the ad thing they did, Hands Across America thing?
Yeah.
Hands Across around the world, basically, but it started with Hands Across America. And what happened to that? That's long gone now.
We need that. Yeah. Well, just when you look at ETs, it's really interesting because there's people are like, wow, this one's really tall. This one has no hair. This one has big eyes. This one, they all look so different. Well, look at the people on Earth. If you were to line every person up with every ethnicity on Earth, you could stick in all the ETs there and they'd fit right in. Because that's
Thank
how
you,
much
Dolly.
variation we have.
Dolly, we're gonna have to get in touch with you, and we're gonna have a talk.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think Dolly Sefrin has lots to do alongside with Preston Dennett.
All right, nice to meet you here.
Besides,
Oh,
we only got about 15 minutes.
Yeah, now, Preston, I was going to ask you before you get out of here. I never heard if you were military or not.
Me, no.
No?
My grandfather, who I never knew, was a general. Yeah. I was. Gosh, let me think for a second. I think it was a colonel or a general. And it is in my family. I do have a nephew who's in the military, but I am not personally anyone in my direct family. No military, no military intelligence, nothing like that at all. No.
No, I am a disabled veteran. Not disabled like I'm not missing an arm or leg or nothing like that. No, just but I am disabled from my service time. But I was in peacetime, but still I am a veteran, and I believe in the fact that when I look at something, I detail everything. Everything's all about detail, you know. And this UFO thing and alien stuff and religion stuff and all kinds of questions, like how can you detail any of that when they're not telling you the truth? They're not telling you all the details to make a legitimate, summation.
You come up with these great questions. I don't know. Does all matter in this universe come from the same source? I'm going to say yes. I don't know, but I think the universe, by definition, is all that is.
She keeps our chat going every single week, and other platforms that we have, and just open chat that we have, and she just brings all kinds of information.
Yeah, I'm guessing Ufi has had some amazing experiences.
Yeah,
I don't know.
She's an author, so she has a lot of stories. And if you go to my Facebook group page, Errt Radio Shows, she does a lot of things on there. But that's also connected to my regular page too, so you can find that some stuff. The Errt Radio Shows is a private group. You can't share from there, but you can enjoy the conversation there. But you can definitely check out whatever is on there on my regular page too, so that works out either way. So, but yeah, we have a lot going on with my little world of Errt Radio.
Very cool. That's awesome. Yeah.
I never thought I was going to do interviews for the radio on the YouTube thing.
Hey, I know the feeling. Someone had told me when I was a little boy that I would be doing this, I would have laughed.
But I really tried hard. I wanted to do acting when I was younger. I did 5 plays in high school, and I thought that I liked it. I enjoyed the whole acting thing. Yeah. To web surf, yeah. And anyway, I never thought I'd be on YouTube like this. This isn't really acting, but I mean, the closest thing to it. You're on a screen, you're beaming yourself across the world. Everyone's seeing you. That's pretty close.
Yeah. I was so shy growing up. There was just no way I would ever do this.
But I did get to interview Calvin Parker before he passed away.
Oh wow!
So that was pretty interesting, and what a great guy he was. And too bad
kudos to him for stepping forward after so many years. That must be really hard.
Philip Mantle got me connected with him, and then I had interviewed him and Terry Lovelace at the same time. Now that was rather interesting.
Yeah,
So,
I'm really impressed by people who have the courage to step forward. And there's still, it's a pretty hostile environment out there, even to this day, when it comes to this subject. I never really cared what people think. When I found out UFOs were real, I'm like, people need to know this.
Yeah, they need to know the truth. Yeah, and
find out.
I got to meet Richard Dolan.
Yeah, nice
Richard
guy.
Dolan.
Yep.
From I think he's from Canada, right?
I believe he lives in New York. I don't know where he's from originally, but
yeah, he was at Pine Bush a couple of times. I met him there, and then I got to meet Don Ecker. You know Don Ecker?
Yes,
and,
I've spoken with him.
Yeah, and then who else did I meet? A couple of other people that are on KGRA radio, and met some of them at the Pine Bush event. And I've been going there for 7 years. No, this will be my 8th year this year. So I've been going there quite a long time. I drive there from where I live at. 25-hour drive if I go straight through, but I'm too old to do that now, so I don't drive straight through anymore. I go and I stay in a hotel one night, and I take my time. I go. I was staying in a truck stop one time. I did that for a few years, and then I had someone wake me up at 3 o'clock in the morning, asking for gas money. I'm like, I'm trying to get home too, I ain't got no gas money for you, So
Sorry,
that's weird.
sorry.
Yeah, that's just kind of weird, and so I thought, no, I'm not going to stay in no truck stop anymore. That's just kind of weird. So hotels are a little bit safer,
Yeah.
So,
if he goes like no stop to Perrysburg and then no stop to Pine Bush, he can make it in no time.
That's what I'm going to do this time. I'm going to leave, take 11 hours to get to Perrysburg, Ohio, and then it'll take another 8 hours to get to Bill's house. So, and then I got to go to Gettysburg after that in July. So it's only 18 hours for that one, though. But yeah, I don't like flying. I hate flying. Not that I'm afraid of flying. I just don't like flying. And I'm a gold prospector, though. I do look for gold. I do prospect in the rivers and things like that when I can. And so if you're flying, you can't stop and look. When you're driving, though, you can stop and look and take your time. That could be why it takes a little longer for me to get. Because I'm always curious about things,
Sure.
And of course looking for places to prospect. That's a lot of fun. Just to look at stuff like that. And eventually I'm going to run into something. I don't know if it's going to be Bigfoot. I don't know if it's going to be.
You never know.
Here in Minnesota, we have what you call a Wendigo. You're not supposed to see them until they're looking at you. You don't see them when they're edge on. You see them when they're facing you, and by that time it's too late. You're done.
I've heard of them. Yep.
Yeah. And now I've been up in the North Woods, and I've heard of things, and I've heard things up there. I've heard some kind of weird animals, And I'm not going to go chasing after them. There ain't no way. My tent's going to protect me. I'll be safe in my tent. As long as I'm not out there trying to chase them down or to whatever. I'm not going to antagonize them.
Understand, yeah.
But I mean, as far as researching, and I'm fine with people that want to do that. Now, I don't think that you should go out trying to rustle up anything or try to get them to attack you or anything like that. They're just asking for it.
Yeah. Well, we do have about less than 5 minutes.
All right. Let's shameless plugs. Let's see. Where can they get a hold of you? Where can they find you? What local shows do you have going on? Like right now, do you have your own show?
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate that. I do have a YouTube channel where I'm putting out a lot of my research. Just punch in my name, it should take you there. I have a website as well. Same thing, easy to find. I'm all over social media. My books are available on Amazon and other online retailers and at bookstores. So yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on the show. So
This
is an
was
important
fun.
subject, and I
Yeah.
feel like everyone should know about it. Everyone has the right
Yeah.
to know the truth, despite our government's efforts to cover it
To
all up.
debunk it and call it conspiracy theory.
Exactly.
Do you have any new book coming out besides the
I
one you just did?
do. Yeah, I'm going to put out a sequel to Symmetry later this year. I'm going to do another book on out-of-body experiences.
Oh,
I'm just finished up Not From Here, Volume 5. That's a 5-volume series all about the weirder, sort of outlying, more unusual patterns and cases that don't quite fit the standard, model of contact, I guess.
I like that.
So yeah, that's going to be coming up hopefully later this month if all goes well. So yeah,
right.
I'm keeping busy.
That sounds like fun.
Oh yeah.
Well, if I wanted to get an autograph book from you, and let's see, if I wanted to get that one with maybe get an autograph from Dolly and from you, boy, wouldn't that be exciting?
Yeah, that's absolutely doable. Just send me an email,
Yeah, and then I'll pay for the book. That's no problem. But I mean, I just like it signed.
Hey, it's an honor.
I do that for some people that I know personally that I've met, and I'll send them the money for the book and the shipping, whatever it costs, a little extra for the shipping, and I'll have it shipped to their house, and then they'll autograph it for me, and then they'll send it my way. Of course, the little extra I put in there for shipping covers that, and that way it kind of gives them a little money in their pocket, not much. I know they don't make a lot of money on the book, But the thing is, it gets our message out there, and I can brag about it. It's, hey, look, I got. So
very cool.
I enjoy doing that. So now I'll try to shout out what I can to everyone that what you're doing, your projects you're working on, and if you have anything else new coming up, and you want to get on and talk about it, hey, we're here.
Hey, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Go ahead, Bobby.
So we want to thank Preston for being here. And we also had a great conversation in the chat. So thank you for all the chat participants. We have Ufi, Jessica, Rockstar, Dolly, Saffron that was here. And
Julianne got here late.
Yeah. And I forgot I think was that there was another one, but I forgot his name.
C&D boy was here.
C&D was here. Blue Easy was here. And then there was like a Michael somebody or whatever. But okay, Michael Kennedy was here. Julianne, sorry, we're about to close the curtains. So
So we did good though. We made it 2 hours. Holy cow, Preston. That's amazing.
Yes.
Wow.
So all right.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. All right.
Yay.
I'm trying to do a show.
Yeah, that was just me, myself, and I, because I know I filled it to Don Ecker with his, I'm trying to do a show, Bob.
Go ahead and play his promo again before we call it.
Yeah, that's.
A little loud on
Yes.
the music.
Yes. And if you want to catch on more shows, follow us where you may go on your favorite device on Mixer, Podbean, YouTube, Facebook, Trovo, Odyssey, and Rumbo.
Yeah, we're all over the place.
Very cool. Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome, and really nice to talk to you again. And we're gonna do this again. At least I hope so. Anyway, I hope we didn't run you off too bad.
No, I appreciate the opportunity. Thanks very much.
All right, you're welcome. All right, good night.
Until next time. Bye.
Yes. All right. Good night, everybody.
All right, thank you, Bobby.
All right. Thank y'all for watching.
Good night.
Good night.